Welcome to the 2021 State of the City Lunch. I would like to start off today by thanking Kent McCrae, CEO of Mease Life, his assistant Mary Ellen Cummings, Randy Brault, the General Manager for Culinary Services, and their staff for all the assistance and fine hospitality they gave us. And we did require some assistance. We think this is a lovely venue, and they do a great job.
So, this year has been like no other, I think you can say. None of us had a roadmap for what we faced. Our residents lost jobs. They learned how to work from home. I'm still trying to figure that one out. We've all had to find new ways to be active outdoors. We've gone without haircuts and nail appointments. We've had to learn how to have virtual visits with our family and live through shortages of toilet paper and other household necessities. And of course, Instacart has, become the new way of grocery shopping. But our businesses got hit pretty hard too, and they got shut down with no end in sight. They've had to deal with executing layoffs of people who have been with them for years. Then reopened to small, random percentages. They've tried to understand the never-ending and confusing emergency orders that we have gotten in the last year. They've had to learn acronyms like PPP and PPE. I still get them confused. They've had to take on new business models, things like takeout, delivery, to-go drinks, and touchless checkouts. And if you think all of those things sound really easy, just ask any business has had to do it. It's a Herculean effort. They've had to figure out how to do cleaning methods to fight a pandemic that none of us have ever lived through before. They've had to purchase thermometers, masks, hand sanitizer, create social distancing models, and whoever heard of that word before this happened? They've had to reduce their menu items, deal with food product shortages, and take on the dreaded enforcement of mask mandates. And if you ask any business, big or small, no matter what they are, that has been their biggest complaint. God, sounds like doom and gloom, right? But our community really came together, and that's, our residents, our businesses, our local government. I couldn't be more proud of each and every one of you and the folks in our community who stepped up and helped each other. We all tried to think out of the box and find ways to support everyone. Whether it was birthday parades, lanterns around the city, thank you, Pam, banners for our senior class who, didn't get to go to prom and do the things that they would have normally done in this year, random pipers bringing joy to neighborhoods. Dunedin has shown itself to be the epitome of who I've always known it was, a network of people who love and support each other. And of course, as your local government, believe it or not, we were trying to figure it out just like you. There was no playbook, like you might find with a natural disaster. There was no playbook. How do you figure this out? We had to take things day by day. But the most important thing was listening. That's what Jennifer and I always talked about. We don't know the answers, but at least we can listen and try to figure it out. And we kept going, trying to be the backbone for all of you. So some of the things that we did, and it might not have sounded like a lot, but there was it's like the duck with the feet underneath the water. Some of the things we tried to do was have strong communication with both our residents and our businesses on especially the orders. We were trying to figure it out the same time everybody else was. So we would do random Facebook Lives as an order was put out there. We called Zoom meetings with any business that wanted to ask questions. We added our social media network to Nextdoor, which is a place where people that don't like general social media will go to get information. We closed city buildings, piers, and playgrounds. We had weekly calls with our sheriff, who, by the way, was telling us what he was going to enforce and what he wasn't going to enforce. We assisted businesses to apply for stimulus money. We formed the Business Recovery Task Force. We held frequently either in person in the beginning or Zoom meetings to help folks walk through the application process of the PPP. We provided outdoor barricades for restaurants that needed them to open up outdoor space. We reduced our code compliance, and you might not think that we should do that, but we did because we didn't want to hand anybody that just lost a job a bill. We just felt like, unless it was life safety, it just wasn't that important given the scheme and scope of what was going on. And our fire department worked vaccine sites tirelessly. But as you all know, we've had this announcement just this week from the governor, and our mandates are lifted. And we have been, again, that duck with our feet under the water, trying to figure out what does that mean. And we, again, have reached out to all of our businesses. We've made personal phone calls. We've responded on social media. And as you know, there's no more of a mask mandate. What I'm hearing right now is a lot of businesses are going to take this thing slow. Not everybody, and everybody has their choice to do whatever they want, but a lot of them want to keep having their staff wear masks and at least encourage through signage others to wear masks. Because I think everybody wants to just make sure this thing is really over, and I don't blame them. We are, at least at this point, unless something else happens, we're keeping our emergency order open until July 1st. And that gives us a chance to wind down all of our committees that have been meeting by Zoom and get them meeting in person. We intend, hopefully next week or the week after, to meet with the business community that has the barricades and sit down with them face to face and kind of talk through how that will transition back to normal. We certainly don't want to hurt anybody, so we want to be fair about how we do it. We also want to meet with promoters who do special events, local people, and figure out, when and how we can assist them get back into the normalcy of our events. Just so you know, in June we will be bringing back our Arts and Crafts Street Festival in downtown Dunedin. So that's pretty exciting. It'll be the first time we've closed the street to a crowd. And that'll give us a lot of insight on how things will be going. Of course, I know Mo and Jennifer, but especially Mo, is working with the Blue Jays to hopefully, maybe, get some fireworks for 4th of July. Doesn't mean we'll be inside the stadium, everybody, but we can be in the general area, and we'll have to figure all that out and at least get to experience something that celebrates all our freedoms. And then, in the fall, we have a number of larger events that we normally have. We normally have Waltz Crab Fest and Wines the Blues and the Celtic Festival in November. And then in December, the Boat Parade, Holiday Parade, and Old Fashioned Christmas. And so we want to sit down with all of those entities and figure out, can we get it done with a shorter planning schedule? And if so, what do you need from us? Because this is not the year for us to nitpick on small things. This is the year for us to be of service at the greatest and highest level. We're going to systematically kind of resume our code compliance, like sign codes and short-term rentals and things like that. We're going to continue our facade grant program, which, believe it or not, during this time, a lot of businesses have really taken advantage of that, and I've been really impressed. We're going to transition our Business Recovery Task Force to a future marketing alliance between our various businesses, organizations, and the city. Again, we want to put our money where our mouth is so that we can support the local economy to the best of our ability right now. And of course, we've been working with Visit St. Pete Clearwater to monitor the tourist outlook just yesterday. And when I get the link to it, I will send it to everybody, the chamber, the merchants, our team. I just participated in a webinar to Toronto travel bookers, and it was solely an hour and 15 minutes on nothing but Dunedin. I was shocked. It was beautiful. It had beautiful videos. It had, I think, 50 or 60 travel experts out of Toronto, and it was titled Beaches and Baseball. It was awesome. And so a number of them have already been here before. So we are working with them hand in hand, meaning the Visit St. Pete Clearwater, to do these kinds of things, to showcase our community and let them know it's safe to come back whenever their borders do open. And you probably know this, I'm sure you've seen it on the news, but the expectation of the travel market over this summer, maybe not out of Canada, but from everywhere else, is expected to blow past years out the door because of all the pent-up travel needs. That's good for our businesses. That brings money, that brings penny for Pinellas for our budget. So we're excited about the prospects. And so we are cautiously optimistic that we can bounce back quickly. And of course, it's what a great thing to have had, let's hear a round of applause for this, Major League regular season baseball in our city. So I'm told that we are the smallest city ever to host Major League Baseball on regular season. And it feels like it was meant to be, given that we just got the stadium done last year and, just got the player development complex. So it just feels like it was karma, like it was just meant to happen. And all the things we had done and all the 5-6 years of work that we did was kind of for this moment. So what a happy thing to have happened to all of us. And I know the businesses have loved it because, it's kind of made spring training last longer. And of course, we will have and I'm sure you've all heard, the Jays are leaving at the end of the month to go to Buffalo, which we all expected that to happen. But we're just so happy and grateful that we were able to be their host for this period of time. And then our minor league will come back. And I think this has been a great opportunity to showcase this wonderful stadium and all the hard work and attractive amenities that it has. We are no longer the stepchild to the Threshers. Let's just say. And so I think by all the people that have gone to these games in the last couple of months see that and will want to come back for a minor league game. So fingers crossed on that. And of course, there were many, many impacts on our organization itself, on our government organization. And I'd like to turn it to Jennifer so she can talk to you a little bit about what our team has gone through over the last year.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what was happening underneath the water during this entire pandemic. The city attorney called what we've been through in the last year and a half, really a year, governing through it. We don't have a choice. We have to continue operations and all those essential services. I've been a public servant my entire life, and I've trained and trained and trained for hurricanes and floods, and I even worked in a city where a blimp crashed, and we knew exactly what to do. Yeah, call 911. There's a blimp in the corporate park, but that's what we did. It worked. It was effective. But regardless, we don't train for a pandemic. We don't plan for a pandemic on the local level, on the county level, on the state level, on the national level. And I can tell you one thing: that's going to change for the city of Dunedin and for the county and the state as well. We need to amend our national incident management system to accommodate for a pandemic. That said, we made it up as we went along, and I think we did pretty darn good. So the first thing that we did was to essentially lock down all essential services. Cast your mind back to March of 2020, where we were. None of us sitting here had any idea how bad this was going to be. We were told it was bad. We saw Wuhan. We knew that there are certain populations that were very susceptible. Others would be just fine, but you didn't know who you were. So we locked down all of our essential services divisions, and that would be fire EMS, obviously, water, wastewater, public services, and solid waste. And so by lockdown, I mean tests when they enter the building, masks when they're in the building, and no public in or out of the building. Still, we got employees with COVID, especially in our fire EMS, and that's just kind of unfortunately going to be a given. The second step was a rapid withdrawal of our employees from all of our public facilities. You would think that would be easy, everybody go home, right? But our administrative staff number is about 175, and they had to go home to homes that didn't have the bandwidth that they needed, the equipment that they needed, the time that they needed. Their children were home. And just a little story here. I was in a Zoom call with one of our employees, and his little daughter, I think she's about 6 years old, leaned over her shoulder. She's looking at me, and she's looking at me. And I said, "Hi, I'm Jennifer." And she said to her dad, "Who's that old lady?" I fired him the next day, so. I'm just kidding. I certainly did not. And I want to call out Dr. Teresa Smalling, who's sitting at the back. Teresa, wave. She is our director of HR and risk, and so we had to, every step of the way, draft a policy, believe it or not. So what are the employees doing when they're home? They can't go home and be paid. They've got to go home and work. And so we had to draft all of those policies on the fly and treat every single employee in the organization the same, and it was very difficult to do. And I can tell you, Teresa and I worked so closely together that when I called, she'd pick up the phone and go, "What?" You know. And all the while, we had to establish the protocols. How many of you are on boards and committees? Yeah, I see a lot of you are on boards and committees. We had to establish the protocols for how you would meet. And some of the boards and committees didn't meet for months, as you recall, because we couldn't figure out, you're not supposed to meet in person, and we can't figure out how to get you on Zoom, and this went on in all of the cities. So we established those protocols, and those are really running very well, actually. But soon, when the governor lifts the order for hybrid meetings, we're all going to have to be together in person again. Everybody put on your pants and come to your committee meetings. So, and the most important protocol, we had to set up those city commission meetings, because the city commission has got to govern and continue to govern, and we've got to get them together in one spot. And first off, it was Zoom, and of course that's the first time that I met Commissioner Kine's cat, who joined us during several city commission meetings. We were very happy to see the cat. We declared our state of emergency in the middle part of March in 2020, and we are still in a state of emergency. And you ask, how is that when the governor lifted the mandate? Our state of emergency now was tweaked by our city attorney to strongly encourage, instead of mandate, masks within our facilities. Our employees will continue to wear masks in our facilities. We met, the department head team, the management team met. We want our employees to remain safe. We want those visiting our facilities to remain safe, so we will be in masks when you see us in all of our public facilities moving forward. You know, we hired 2 department directors during the pandemic, and it's really hard to hire someone one-dimensionally, right, Sue? Yes, it is. I mean, it's difficult to interview for a position like that virtually. So eventually, Sue and George Kinney, who's our director of community development, came to visit us in person during a pandemic at a time we're not supposed to travel, so we could hire them, and they're working for us now, and we're very, very happy to have them on board. Everything slowed down a little bit, or maybe a lot in some instances, and I would be the first one to admit it. We are beginning to ramp back up again. As I said, our employees went home in a lot of instances because they could not socially distance, because we were in 5 different facilities that social distancing was not possible. And you can't wear the mask all day long either in a lot of those facilities. They went home, they started to trickle back. We did a hybrid program where some were in the office part of the week and the others were working from home, and then we would switch. The main city hall, though, has actually been fully staffed since probably last summer, because nobody wanted to go home. We wanted to stay and work because, all the families there in the refrigerator and, the whole thing. So I had to come back to work, I can tell you that much. The other aspect of it is the budget, right? So you have the human resources side of it, the human issues, and then the budget. So again, cast your mind back to March of 2020. We have no idea how bad this is going to be. You don't know the impact on all of you. We don't know the impact on our municipal corporation. So we took some steps immediately. We froze all hiring of non-essential personnel. So if everybody's gone home and we don't know where new employees are going to work, we can't hire the new employees. So we set aside hiring of non-essential personnel. We froze all extraneous expenditures. And the reason that we did that was to shore up the fiscal year 2020 budget. We wanted to save our money because we knew that 2021 was going to get pretty bad. And then the third was we revised our forecasts to mimic a deep recession. The Board of Finance was very much involved in these activities. We looked at actually the Great Recession and what we lost in ad valorem taxes, user fees, and those types of things, and we mimicked that forecast in our budget. We have got to submit a balanced budget every year, and we wanted to make sure that we could balance. So we wanted to kind of save our powder, if you will, keep it dry moving forward. We had expenses and we actually weren't reimbursed for them until just recently. PPE, overtime for our EMS personnel, the shields that we put up, the sanitizers, the monitors and the kiosks, that added up to about $500,000. It's actually less than I thought that we would be spending. And we had decreases in revenue, and here's the big one. Not only your ad valorem taxes, your property taxes, but also our user fees and the revenue that we share with the state, our gas tax and so on and so forth. So that hit for us was about between $1.4 and $1.6 million. So the good news is, though, we have new funding sources, and I'm going to touch upon those in just a moment. And there's more good news, too. We're coming out of this in a stronger position than we anticipated that we would be. We thought that penny for Pinellas, everybody is aware of penny for Pinellas, right? It's our one set surtax. We thought we would be looking at negatives of 8, 9, 10% in fiscal year 21, 22, and 23. We're actually at about a negative 3% right now and getting better. So thanks to all of you who stayed open, who persevered. Good job. Very good job. So I talked a little bit about some of the revenue fillers that we have. I'm going to talk about the American Rescue Plan, because there's something very specific about that I want to address to all of you. It's $350 billion for state and local recovery. It covers the revenue losses from COVID-19 since March 2020. It pays a premium for EMS workers. They certainly deserve it. And then there's some water, sewer infrastructure within the American Rescue Plan. And this is what I want to be clear about. We are going to realize over the next 2 years $15 million to the city of Dunedin, which is wonderful, isn't it? It should solve all of our problems, shouldn't it? No. Unfortunately, it doesn't. It only accommodates eligible expenditures. And so we are right now combing through all of our infrastructure projects to find out what would be eligible, and the revenue losses, what would be eligible for reimbursement. But the last thing that I want to do is position this organization so we have spent too much money and have to reimburse. That's not a place we want to be. So we're going to check, double check, and triple check our eligible expenditures in regards to the $15 million. I want to call out our strategic plan. I remember last year we started with this, actually, with the leader was the strategic plan. We based our strategic planning process, our 6 epic goals, on a business survey and a resident survey, and we're going to touch upon that in just a moment. But the business plan really gave us the focus and the backbone as an organization moving forward to continue in the direction that we were going. Yes, we departed because we had a pandemic. We certainly did, but we kept true to these six epic goals in all of our other expenditures, and it really saw us through. So, I went to a professional organization. I was in a webinar, and one of the city managers asked, well, what am I going to do with my strategic plan? It doesn't apply. It should. It should always apply, and ours does. This is our work plan for the year, and we're doing our business planning right now. Our work plan for the year is adopted by the City Commission, and it's based upon the surveys that all of you take moving forward. And we will be resurveying all of you as well. Just a couple more things. I just want to change direction, if I may, and I don't have a slide for this, but I do want to touch upon code compliance, if I may. We had another storm in the summer of 2020, as all of you may recall, and that was the issue with Mr. Ficken's lawn grass. Do you all recall that? It was a very difficult time, I think, for the city of Dunedin. You don't want that type of national attention called upon our city. It was a very negative attention to our city. I want you to know that Mr. Ficken sued the city in federal court on the notice principle, and the city prevailed. The federal court found that Mr. Ficken was provided with the notice as required by statute. That said, the City Commission very early on said, we need reform in our code enforcement process. The commission directed staff to make improvements to code enforcement and the processes to stress voluntary compliance over proactive enforcement, and that is where we have positioned code compliance now. We've hired a supervisor in the field so that if any of you have a complaint about code enforcement, you call the supervisor instead of the director in the office who's busy doing other things. And we have a whole new code enforcement staff, code compliance staff as well. We've capped fines that are non-life threatening. We are adopting a municipal citation program. We're also, as the mayor said, we are also stepping up our code compliance efforts moving forward as the pandemic hopefully sunsets. The last thing I'm going to talk about, go ahead. There we go. Yay. Our new City Hall. And first of all, I would like to thank the Board of Directors of the Chamber of Commerce and the Chamber of Commerce for your support of our new City Hall. It is truly beautiful. The City Commission authorized Manhattan to move forward with construction of the new City Hall. We had a meeting on Wednesday with all parties involved in construction of the new City Hall, and we issued the notice to proceed commencing June 1st of 2021. This is a 38,463 square foot building housing all the administrative functions of the city of Dunedin. And just to give you an example of the efficiencies that we're going to be able to gain, those employees are now housed within 5 different facilities within the city of Dunedin, which means all of you have to go to 5 different areas in order to find them. So the funding sources and the cost centers are the building fund, the CRA, the penny fund, the utility fund, and this is important because none of that is general fund, which is ad valorem taxes. We have structured the financing for City Hall that we will be able to take out a loan for the $22 million for the City Hall and the entire site, and that includes solar, undergrounding utilities. We will be able to pay it off in 8.5 years. At a very low interest rate, we're hoping for under 2% without touching the general fund. We will have remaining in the penny fund $3.7 million at the end of 10 years. So we're very pleased to bring you this City Hall. It was actually supported by the Board of Finance, which, if those of you know them, they're a very conservative group. Fiscal stewardship is their bag. So we're going to be complete in September of 2022, and everybody is invited to our groundbreaking May 11th. That's Tuesday at 10 o'clock on the Wood Street site. So with that, we'll move on to our survey status. So in order to develop the previously mentioned strategic plan, I had told you that we developed that predicated upon a citizen survey and a resident survey as well. That's 2019 was a resident survey, 2020 was a business survey. There were 4 factors that came out of both of those surveys predominantly, and that was development, affordable housing, traffic, and paying a little more attention to all those businesses outside of the downtown. We've made great strides as far as addressing those surveys, and we did run a campaign, Did You Know? I don't know if you saw it, and you asked, and we addressed the issue. The character overlay on the south side of Dunedin. We hear time and time again that the McMansions are something that are really impactful to the neighborhoods in a negative way, that the residents would like us to see some control over the larger homes in some of the areas, the older areas within the city. Last night, the City Commission adopted a zoning in progress. That's effective immediately. The zoning in progress is for just about everything south of Main Street. And what a zoning in progress does is that as we develop a character overlay for that area, character overlay speaks to architectural styles, it speaks to mass, it speaks to density on those lots. As we develop that, the only permits that we will process will be small permits, fences, walls, roofs, that type of thing, and those structures that meet that character overlay, right? That, you know, they're one story, they're built on a single lot. We're not going to allow anybody to span those lot lines within these 8 months until we develop the character overlay. It is a way for us to maintain the status quo in the area, which is what we've been hearing from residents predominantly. In order to answer the feeling of overdevelopment, we reduced building heights. We increased side and front yard setbacks. The building heights were decreased in the A, B, and C areas in downtown. So a lot of times the developer will come in, they want 2 stories, and the 3rd story is only approvable through the City Commission. And that was directly to address those issues with overlay as cited during the course of our resident survey. So the other issue was affordable housing. And one of the things about affordable housing that I want to make very clear is that this is a regional issue. It's not a national issue, I would say, because a lot of the Iron Belt states are losing population. This is a regional issue, and it has to be addressed in a regional way. We, the city of Dunedin, don't have the panacea to provide the affordable housing that we need within the city. We commission an affordable housing assessment, and because since our funds are finite, we want to know where we needed to focus our efforts, and that was, does anybody know what that was? And nobody on the commission, because that's cheating. And nobody back that's cheating. No, it was actually for those who are cost constrained in their households or for those who are 65 and over on a fixed income. It figures, right, within the city of Dunedin. Bob Einsmith, our Director of Economic Development and Housing, is working on a deal on 580. Hopefully we'll be able to bring that through. How many units is that, Bob? 78 apartments for those 65 and older that are affordable. We have done a number of Habitat for Humanity projects and a number of other projects, but we continue in our affordable housing efforts to bring forth whatever we can. But again, we need to continue to work with the county. So affordable housing and overdevelopment, I've addressed that, and then the next topic was traffic, and the mayor's going to pick it up from there. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Jennifer. I always say traffic, traffic, traffic. You can't leave your house without thinking about traffic anywhere in Pinellas County. So one of the biggest things that we heard on our both business and resident surveys was overdevelopment is causing all of this traffic. Well, that's just not true, and let me tell you why. We have roughly almost 6 million annual visitors to Pinellas County when only just shy of 1 million people live here. So you're trying to, what's the old saying, you're trying to squeeze something very big into something very small. I can't think of the saying, sorry. And roughly 80 some to 90% of them come with their own vehicle, either by renting or by driving here. So that's our traffic issue. But having said that, there are things that we can do. I represent the commission by working on Forward Pinellas as the city's liaison. Forward Pinellas is basically the county's transportation planning arm. And one of the big things we've been working on is the causeway. Anybody try to go out the causeway on a Saturday morning? If you're not out there at the crack of dawn at sunrise, you're going to be sitting in a line for about an hour, if not more. And a major reason for that is the lack of lanes getting into Honeymoon Island. And so Jennifer and I and Forward Pinellas have been working really hard with the Department of Environmental Protection, which oversees Honeymoon Island, and FDOT, to get new lanes to go in and additional lanes. We've seen their plan. They have added, I think, 2 to 3 extra lanes going in. They've also added extra space in the entrance of the park for stacking of cars to get them off of the Causeway Boulevard. Also part of the plan is, and I'm sure you've seen this on places like County Road 1 or Belcher, where you see those signs that kind of tell you what's going on, the electronic signs. The county is going to put one of those on the causeway and likely on Alt 19, so that if traffic's backed up, if the park has to close because it's full, you'll know, hopefully, either when you're in line, if it's on the causeway and can pull off and turn around, or before you even get there. So there are some real strong steps being taken. All of this was supposed to happen this year, but then COVID hit. So we are being right now reassured by DEP that it is in their budget that starts July 1st. Do we know whether they're going to start it on July 1st or go to, June of next year? We don't know that yet. When all of those things happen, which I think will relieve significantly the backup going on the causeway, then FDOT is going to step in and try to do some significant work to the intersection at Alt 19 and the causeway to make it safer for all the various uses and move traffic through there more quickly. So that's something we've been really focused on. Another thing is, everybody's talking about safety when they're crossing Alt 19. We are also working with Forward Pinellas and FDOT on the possibility of some medians on North Alt 19, kind of north of Eddies, if you will, when it kind of gets into that residential area, and having some, lighted crosswalks and that type of thing. As you all know, we're working on Skinner Boulevard, also with Forward Pinellas and FDOT. It's currently slated to be done in 2026. It moved out a year because of the drastic reduction of revenue that FDOT received this past year. We believe that because revenue did not reduce as much as everyone thought it was, and given the legislature's budget, we believe that we could move it up at least maybe a year. We also know that the American Recovery Act can provide funding, and we also know that there's a stimulus package going on which could provide large amounts of funding for road infrastructure. And so we're hoping we can get that moved up even sooner to kind of coincide with all the other things we are doing. Just before the pandemic hit, maybe the fall before the pandemic hit, I'm sure you all remember that we were able to expand our golf cart accessibility around our city. Unbelievable that we just had, 10 golf carts stolen by kids. That's crazy. But it's a big thing in our community, and we're keeping an eye on it. And we've kind of talked on the dais. I don't want to say it's a new initiative. I just want to say that we are all aware that with as much golf cart usage and love, let's say, from our community, it kind of defines part of our community. With that, we understand there's got to be a little bit of infrastructure. Maybe some more charging stations as we add. As development happens, does that development access golf carts? Should there be golf cart parking at new developments? And just all of those things. We didn't know it was going to take off that way, so we don't have kind of a master plan at this point. But we are aware that that's needed, and so we're keeping an eye on all of those things. In the upcoming budget, I am told, again, because of traffic, I am told that Jennifer is going to be proposing to us hiring a traffic engineer on staff. If the commission chooses to approve this in our budget, I think what that's going to do, is not that this doesn't happen today, it happens, it's just sort of bifurcated depending on who we hire to do it. But having an on-staff person be able to look at all the developments and how it affects us with traffic. Neighborhood cut-through traffic has been kind of the bane of our thing as long as I've been on the dais, because we have newer neighborhoods that have newer street design that keeps cars moving slow, and then you've got older developments, let's say Fairway Estates, where the street is as long as Union. I mean, it's long, and so you tend to speed up. And there are many, many new traffic calming things and technologies out there that we really haven't had the wherewithal to take advantage of. And so, I think by having someone on staff, I think they can be working with our neighborhoods on those things, which we heard a lot about in our survey. And then just last week, we approved a pilot program for AVA. Have you all heard of AVA? So AVA is a driverless little bus, and at some point in May it's going to start, and I'm sorry I don't have the exact date. Next week. Following week. So they'll be going up and down Douglas, which and by our 2 parking lots on Douglas, and hopefully able to transport some of those people still going to the games. We will also, once the Major League leaves, we will also be changing that route around to go up and down Main Street. So if you want to park at the Wood Street lot, but you're heading down to Blur or Chickaboom or whatever, you can hop on Ava and it'll drive you down there. It's a 3-month pilot, and the purpose of it, and the only cost to us is really just some infrastructure things. We're not paying for it to be operated. And the purpose of it is to show people what these driverless options can be, get you used to it, and try to help PSTA, which Commissioner or Vice Mayor Gao is our liaison to, help PSTA convince the federal government that they need to sponsor an entire program of this kind of thing in Pinellas County, because, as you know, Pinellas County needs transit. And then, of course, there were also issues in our city. Folks felt like we focused so much on downtown. It is an economic driver for us, as you know, but we've taken big efforts to try to look at everywhere in our city, and Jennifer's going to talk a little bit more about that.
We certainly have. So once you advance one more, and then we'll go backwards. There you go. There we go. So efforts elsewhere in our city. So the Patricia Corridor. We're really starting to concentrate on the Patricia Corridor because really downtown is starting to spread a little bit, isn't it? You know, to the south side and other neighborhoods, and we need more attention on Patricia Corridor. So we did Dunedin Commons, as all of you are aware, and that really dressed up that area. And we are actually looking at doing some, established the Patricia Avenue Business Alliance as well to get all of those businesses together to start talking about the direction of the corridor. We are doing a new entryway on 580, as well benches, landscaping, facade grants, and we're going to reinvigorate the Patricia Avenue corridor entirely and pay a lot of attention to that. The mayor had already mentioned Skinner Boulevard, so that's going to be a complete streets project, probably our first within the city of Dunedin, and it's the appropriate place to start that project, to be sure. So I want to touch upon the downtown East End plan as well, if I may. I think we're going to turn back into the downtown and what's happening in the downtown. The downtown East End plan has been around for quite a while, and it is the purpose of the plan is to revitalize downtown before our CRA might expire. Our CRA expires in 2033, and at that time we stop realizing tax increment financing into our coffers, if you will, for redevelopment in the downtown. You know, one of the reasons why there is a lot of scuttlebutt and a lot of work in the downtown is because it is a separate funding source, the CRA. What we generate within that area is reinvested within that area, and so that's why we hear so much more about the downtown. When City Hall goes under construction, we're looking at some parking issues, obviously. We retain 75 spaces on the Wood Street lot, but the hospital has been very generous with us, and they're allowing us to use that parking area on Milwaukee and Virginia, and also Mease Materials. We've entered into a long-term agreement with them. We're going to demolish that building and provide parking there as well. Old City Hall, which is in the center part of the downtown East End plan, where I sit almost every day, is going to be an active park. That's what's shown on the downtown East End plan. We'll have concerts there. It's going to kind of be a mini Pioneer Park. So really, you know, we're lightening up the East End with Gateway, right, which is going to have a boutique hotel, restaurants. It's going to have residential rental, outdoor entertainment, and a larger, it's not really a convention space, but it's 250-seat gathering area, if you will, we don't have anything like that in North Pinellas County. So there's going to be, yes. And what, Mayor? A food hall. And actually, the mayor insisted on the food hall as well. We're got to have the food hall. And we know Wendy will be singing there before you know it, right? Yes. The City Commission saw the design review at first reading for them last night, and then they'll be seeing second reading of the design review for that property on the 20th as well. So, more importantly, and perhaps the most important effort right now in our economic development is the Coca-Cola plan. And with that, I know the mayor's been working really hard with the county, and Mayor, I'll turn it over to you for Coca-Cola.
Thank you, Jennifer, and Jennifer's been working really hard on it too, so don't let her fool you. You know, a lot of people have been talking about it, how important this is to our economy. And when all of this first happened, Jennifer and myself, you know, had a long conversation. I know she's been keeping the commission up to date, and I know Bob's been a part of that conversation. But we wanted to tackle this kind of like we tackled the Blue Jays. We tackled the Blue Jays where we were meeting on a regular basis, where everybody in the city that's a part of the conversation sits in a room and says, okay, what's the craziest next idea we need to come up with, and sort of created a little task force, if you will, to make sure we didn't lose sight of how important this is, and we weren't just waiting for somebody else to do something, because we are masters of our own destination. We may not have a lot of control because we don't own the property, but we are great catalyst people when we are talking to folks like the county who, we're one small little drop in a big bucket, but we know how to toot our own horn, and we know how to make ourselves important to get attention, and that's kind of what we've been doing. Just our last meeting that we had, we met with the county administrator, the county economic development director, his replacement, because he's now retired, right, Bob? Yes. So we have a new guy. We met with Paul, who I think is back there. So Paul has a stake in this because our wastewater treatment plant is next to the Coca-Cola. We had our deputy city manager, Jorge, and of course Bob, our economic development and housing. Who am I missing? And Jennifer and I. Oh, yes. And our former mayor and current county chairman, Dave Eggers. So we just all got in a room and started talking. Here's where we are, here's where we're trying to get. So currently, Bob is working on a market analysis for the property. We're trying to get the county to partner with us on that. And essentially, it's going to answer a couple of things. If a developer was coming in to do light industrial there, what kinds of things would they do? What is that location appropriate for? And the second thing is kind of what is the land use still good for that area, and what is the best way to market this? So it's going to tell us a number of different things. We should have that back in the fall, right, Bob? We have been meeting, Bob has been meeting with the realtor from Coca-Cola that's representing Coca-Cola's interests. He's been open so far. He understands, and they've been told that under the current policies and guidelines of Pinellas County, they will not change industrial zoning because they're very focused on retaining jobs in a high touristy county that doesn't have those kinds of jobs. We have a lot of lower level tourist industry positions. And so they are trying to create that mid to higher level job security and balance. We don't want all our eggs in one basket. So they are very aware of that. But as you know, we can't control what they do and who they sell to. So our focus and mission is to be the best partner ever. So where they're going to want to bring us in the fold, where they're going to want to see the success of this. One of the things that we've talked about is it could be one large company, it could be 4 or 5 smaller ones. We believe that because most of the buildings on that property, because they were built in the 1940s, we don't believe that it's highly likely that anybody will want to refurbish those buildings. So we believe that it's probably going to be necessary at some point to market this, just like we did with the Nielsen, to tear down those buildings. And of course, preserve any historical features. I know Commissioner Kynes would not let us not preserve any of the historical features, and I know Vinny wants to have something on site that commemorates the orange juice industry in our community because it's very, very important. We're told that Coca-Cola intends to leave in spring of 2022, so it's less than a year away. We have a lot of information that we've asked for that's out there. I think we're meeting again in June. Did I just see that come across and then I think we have another meeting with the bigger wigs from the county in August or September. I think the biggest thing to say about this is we are not taking this lightly. This is very serious to us. We were so thrilled when we got Achieva in our ARC. We're so fortunate to have Mease Manor. We're so fortunate to have the Blue Jays, and we're so fortunate to have our own hospital, for God's sakes, as a small 38,000, 10 square mile community. And so to have had Coca-Cola for as long as we did, we're very proud of that. And we don't know what we might get, but the possibilities are endless, and we're hoping that we can market ourselves well enough and work with Coca-Cola well enough to bring some other jobs, that will round our community out and make us balanced economically, and that is extremely important, and everybody, including our commissioners, are working very hard towards that end. So now that we've talked about economic development, is it time to talk about poopy water, Paul? Yes. And with that transition, I'll turn it back to Jennifer.
Thank you, Mayor, for that. So infrastructure, and the American Recovery Plan, as you know, has a large emphasis on infrastructure. But that's okay, we're already doing it. And I remember when I first came to the city of Dunedin, and actually when I was researching the city, how impressed I was with how the city has maintained its infrastructure, especially as it pertains to water and wastewater, also known as POO by Paul Stanek. So we have done a complete renovation of our reverse osmosis water treatment plant, and that was all major water treatment processes were removed and replaced. It's more sustainable at this point. And we have also upgraded our wastewater treatment plant as well, the entire electrical system. We used the state revolving fund program. Our interest rate for the water treatment plant was, ready for this? How'd you like this for your house? 1.03%. Yeah. And for the wastewater treatment plant, it's actually less than 1% state revolving fund money. And over the that's going to save us millions over the lifespan. We're doing a stormwater master plan, and affecting that stormwater master plan as well. We're also doing a DREAM, which is Dunedin's Resilient Environmental Action Master Plan, and that addresses all of our sustainability and environmental initiatives within the city of Dunedin. And the City Commission is actually going to be seeing it this summer for adoption, and that will also answer our Ready for 100 initiative as well. Thank you, ma'am.
So, who here knows that the city likes green space? The two things I know about this city, no doubt about it, they are environmentally conscious and they love their green space. And I'm so appreciative about that, because it just tells me that we have a very thoughtful, critical thinking community that wants to see it be sustainable and long-lasting. So, as you know, we've been in the middle of a pandemic. Last fall, we started working on the Gladys Douglas Preserve. I'm going a little bit out of order, but on purpose. And, who knew that was going to grow to what it did? I mean, and probably a little known secret that most of you didn't know. But Mayor, maybe that's a thing, something of a vision of something to come. Commissioner Franey kind of started the ball rolling on this, because she lives right up the street from former Mayor Bob Hackworth. They live on the same street. And she and her good friend, Commissioner Karen Seal from the county, and our former Mayor Bob started talking about this and started working with the county. And I won't get into all the gruesome details, but it just got slowed down at the county level, and then COVID hit. And so Jennifer and I said, we have to do something about this. This is just, it has to happen. But we could not afford those prices. Long story short, we all came together. All of our commissioners started calling the county, their contacts on the county commission, and lobbying them to put up the funds. I cannot tell you how many tours I did of that property. Commissioner Kynes did some as well, and Jennifer joined me on several to try to woo people to donate. Former Mayor Bob Hackworth, really, laudable effort out in the public on talking about this. we had local organizations like the Sierra Club, the Florida Native Plant Society. I don't get all the names right, I'm sorry. And then just local residents like Nicole Matthews and Michelle, who created a Facebook page. And then came in the Pinellas Community Foundation. And they have access to so many donors out there, many of which are huge green space supporters. And we had our contribution angels come forward. So as you all know, it's not a news story anymore, but between a number of $10 and $20 and then $2 and $1 million contributions, and then Pinellas County and the city of Dunedin, we will be closing on this property next Thursday. We have completed our due diligence. We've completed our environmentals. Nothing too concerning, right?
No.
Yeah, that was a long pause. Nothing too confusing. Actually, I believe it's Tuesday. Jennifer and I are signing all the documents, the real documents. And then Thursday, and unfortunately, we can't really open it to the public until we actually close. But at the end of the day, Thursday, which is when we believe it will have gone through the bank records and all of the, gone through all the title company and everything, we will be standing outside there on Facebook Live, our commission, the county commission, our internal team, the Hackworth family, and all of the major contributors that want to attend and that helped make this happen. We will be doing a Facebook Live final signing and champagne toast, and then we will be going out to the corner of County Road 1 and Virginia/Beltrees there to wave signs to thank everybody for how much they've contributed to this.
You're all invited.
Yeah, you can come wave signs. Having said all of that, we along with the county submitted a FCT, from Florida Communities Trust grant, to the state. Unfortunately, the governor has not made his appointments to the FCT board, who has to approve these applications. We have been lobbying, he and our legislators, to urge him to do so, because our application has been in there since December, January. And we know he doesn't need it in the budget because the budget just went through. So I'm not sure what's holding it up. Any of you that want to write your governor and ask him to make his appointment so we can get our application through, because we don't have the money to make the improvements on this property without it. So it could take as long as 2 years to between getting the money and doing the actual work that needs to be done out there, things like trails, a fishing pier, fencing the property for safety, and we'll make sure it's a Dunedin-esque fence, not something ugly. The environmental protection areas, we're going to have a observation tower possibly. Most things are very passive. Very passive. You got to have a parking lot, a place to park your car to get in there. And then, eventually we hope to have a wonderful nature center. But, because this came up the way it did, we didn't plan out in the future to do all these things. So we are waiting for FCT grants in order to do it. So we've still got a couple cards up our sleeves to hopefully make it happen sooner, but it's likely about 2 years before we can really open it to the public. But we do have another park that we had been talking about for a long time when we allowed the Par 3 to go away, and that's Sterling. And so we are not done with that yet, but we did we put it on hold because of COVID, and then we put it on hold because of the Gladys Douglas Preserve. But we haven't forgotten about it. And we've promised that we would have some public input sessions on what folks want to see out there, and we will then do that, hopefully in the next 6-8 months, a year. I believe in this year's budget, we do have planned a dog park, which we had been promising for many years after the removal of Happy Tails from Van Eck, which is now operated by the Blue Jays Player Development Complex. So sometime this budget year, so I'm guessing, I'm looking at Vince, sometime before October, it's going to be built? Yes? Okay. It'll be started. Let's say that. It'll be started. Okay, very good.
That's Vince Gizier, Director of Parks and Recreation.
Yes, sorry. But one of the things I did want to just take a moment is to say, especially back on the Gladys Douglas Preserve, that, you know, our entire commission was extremely supportive of this effort, Herculean effort. But it would not have happened without the extreme puppet mastering of our city manager, Jennifer Bramley. So please give her a round.
Thank you, Mayor. You're overly generous, though.
Nah. And you know, you can tell when Jennifer is passionate about a subject because you don't have to keep calling and bugging her about something. She's calling you to tell you a status. And this project, I didn't, you know, I mean, there was a few months there that we were on the phone probably 5 times a day. I know you well too well. Kind of like, what? You know, it's just like you and Teresa. And you could clearly see her passion. And that's what I appreciate about her for the state of our city, because she represents us well. She represents our city commission well. She listens, and you just took this one by the you-know-what, and you really did well.
Thank you very much.
So we're going to close out because I know we've kind of run over time as we always do, but and I know that we've have some of our commissioners that are going to say a few words. But it has been a very, very long year. You all have accomplished so much for the various organizations and businesses that you work for or own. And we have accomplished a lot with a lot of limited resources. But we've all done this together. We've been a community. The state of our city is strong, and our future is bright. I think you can all feel it in the air. We are here for you. We are committed to following your vision of what we like to call delightfully different Dunedin. I want to thank you, the Chamber, and I want to thank Mease Life for having us.